50. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, any changes to the agenda?
Well, Mr. Thornton, I think that, and this is obviously open for discussion by the board. Since Director Ryan Schmidt was kind of spearheading the unfinished business and facility use fee discussion, that we were able to get the information that she and the board requested. We received an email that she was unable to be here tonight. It would be my suggestion that we strike unfinished business from the discussion. We have the actual discussion about the policy practice and fees at our next board meeting. Does not change, however, the revision to policy 4260 that we had talked about at the previous meeting. Just a suggestion.
Comment?
Well, all the fees are still staying the same right now. Steve.
I'm sorry,
The fees, as far as what they are right now, they're still.
there's been
No
nothing
change.
changed until the board takes action.
I think holding out for Julie is, because she probably had more questions than anybody else. So
Correct.
Yep, that's
wait, so she can get all the answers as well.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to strike item 7.
I second.
okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Okay, how about approval of the agenda? As
That's
amended.
revised.
So the chair would entertain a motion for approval.
I will motion to approve the agenda as revised.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so agenda's approved. Next is delegations, Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, not a standard delegation, in that, we had, an ejection by one of our coaches at a contest last week, and I must preface this by saying that it was not a formal ejection at the time of the event because of official error. However, it was reported by, middle school athletic director Campman. So because of board policy and practice, we've asked Mr. Zorn to join us for just a brief explanation of the ejection and where we go from here. You can take the podium.
Last week we were playing a football game in Othello. The officiating was not the greatest for both sides. There were some calls against my kids that were ridiculous. My comment to the ref, I wasn't screaming, was, terrible call. The ref threw a flag. I said, it's still a terrible call. So he threw another flag and did this, and that's the extent of it.
You want to share?
Oh, we made contact with the head of officiating for the Othello area with an apology to their officials as well as to Othello Junior High or middle school, to their AD as well as to their coaches.
You'll be at the next game though, right?
Today was the last one.
Yeah,
So,
today.
And I would note, there were also similar, and it's of course not my job to go into any detail, but there were similar flags thrown against the Othello sideline as well, with the same results. So this was not an isolated incident, which quite frankly, when we have coaching issues or flag on the sideline issues, sometimes it is isolated. This was a free flying flag frenzy.
I didn't like anybody.
Okay.
Exactly. So Othello is going through the same process.
All right.
Just
Sounds
to,
more like
just to make a
official
note.
issues than coaching issues.
Yeah.
No problem.
We good?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
guys.
You're free to.
guys.
You've been punished enough, Mr. Gore.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's all I have for delegation.
So we'll move on to the proposed consent agenda. Any questions, comments?
Am I okay to vote on that if I miss the minutes? I just don't sign it, is that right?
You listen.
I listened in. I missed. Okay,
Yeah, we,
missed a couple minutes.
Yeah.
but-
I was gonna say, we counted you as.
All right, fair enough, good.
Well, I didn't count his votes because he didn't vote, but he was counted as being
Right,
there. Just.
but I mean, as far as approving minutes, it should count. Any questions, comments? You're good, Drew?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Hi.
Hi.
Aye. Passes. Okay, now our favorite part, public comments. Go ahead and state your name and make your comment. And,
Do you have and my apologies, do you have the paragraph that we normally?
No,
We don't have.
unless it's in here. I don't.
I think the main part of that is also that we have a 3-minute time limit per person.
My name is Kira Craven and we're here today. We're here for your number 7 that you just moved. So we will plan on attending the next meeting, but I just kind of want to just introduce ourselves. We're Benton City Basketball Club. We will come and we'll present how this will impact us, our clubs, our kids, our community, and just how we feel that it's gonna be difficult on us. I mean, to the point where we might not function as the way in our capacity. But we will be back. And if you guys have any questions in the meantime, like feel free to reach out. Where Benton City Basketball Club online. I'm Sophia Craven. I sent my name and number to Holly here, but we're more than willing to provide whatever we provided rosters, which you guys may have already. We are 100% KIB kids. We serve our community. We give back to our kids, and we do it for the kids. We give countless hours that we do, our board does, our coaches do. It's all for the kids. We don't get nothing out of this. But we want to be able to continue to function and provide for our community. But we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kira.
My whole letter is out of line.
No, it's just a lot for
Okay,
kids.
so a few of you know me, some of you don't, I'm Celeste. Faith. My parents used to run a basketball program here for years. And so the things that I'm seeing, I'm not too thrilled with, honestly. And so it's very hard for me to see this because I grew up in high school. I grew up in the gyms. So it's weird to me that use all that stuff. It's weird. But that's probably different subject. And I sat at the gym all Saturday for the kids. And with the new increases, I mean, we'll talk about next week, but you're cutting our in half. I could go to work. I take Saturdays off for the kids. I could make double that, but I don't. So just for you guys to know, I mean, what we started with what? I mean, Rick would know, 3 teams. We have 14 or 15 teams, like 150 kids in that city. And now with everything, volleyball's not gonna happen. So yes, I agree, like, yeah, they're not all KIB, but things can be done differently in that aspect, but I want my kids to play volleyball. I don't wanna have to drive to Tri-Cities. So I was pretty mad, like a week ago or something, and I even posted on Facebook, I'm really frustrated with school at this point, and I got a bunch of things from parents that if you want them to come, I don't know if you want them to come, let us know next time if you want us to bring them. I don't wanna like fill this place. But some of the things that people even said, like communion sports are important, the kids have the ability to travel. I see some of my kids walking from the apartments to practice. Well, how they can do that, Tri-Cities, if we don't have anything. And there's nothing else in Benton City for kids. What is it, Little League is starting up a little bit more, but other than that, soccer's going now, volleyball's going now, Little League a little bit, basketball's really all we have in Benton City for kids. I don't see them on the streets. And that's where every week I say, I'm done fighting, all I do I feel like is I fight with the school. And I don't know, something needs to be done about it. And yes, we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Sandy Joseph, probably you guys don't know. I grew up here in Benton City. I actually just grew up right over here in this little trailer parks over here, the trailer house. I'm a coach, a parent, been a community here ever since I could really remember, like I grew up here. The biggest thing for me is just like time availability in the gyms. So I coach 2 teams, kind of 3. I coach the 2nd and 3rd grade girls, and I coach my daughter's kindergarten team. And we have 2 hours of practice every week for each team, which is honestly probably not even 2 hours of practice by the time everyone gets their shoes on and actually like are ready. 2nd and 3rd grade girls, right? But the biggest thing is we just need more time. I mean, sometimes we're sharing gyms in the middle school. It's difficult to share a team or share a gym with another team while you're trying to coach and other kids are bouncing or talking. You're talking over people. I mean, we just got informed the other day that we're not allowed. I mean, we're allowed to use the divider in the multi-purpose room, but if it breaks, we're going to be responsible is what we were told for the replacement for the divider. So we're kind of hesitant to even try and bother using that. Funds are short already as it is. But the biggest thing is I don't understand why we can't have more access to the high school. I mean, it's a gym. We ask kids to bring their basketball shoes. We try and enforce it as much as we can, wear the basketball shoes to help keep the floors clean. We were also told that, I guess we're only waxing the floors down once a week. I'm not sure, or once a year. I'm not sure if we can't do it twice a year. I think when I was in school, we did it beginning of school year and winter break when kids were in school. I just would like to have more access to the school gyms. We have, like, I think my wife said, we have like 14 teams. That's kind of tight. And then anytime we have a middle school game, any little thing, we get dropped. We get dropped and we have to try and squeeze in somewhere else. I think the other day we had like 3 or 4. It was ridiculous. We had a lot of kids. And the one thing I'd like to have more access, at least to the back, to the gym, to be able to use it, and mainly the kids. It's for the kids, everything to do for the kids. I mean, we're nonprofit, we don't make no money. Literally, I just spend hours and hours of time just sometimes feel like running around in circles and beating my head, trying to yell at these kids, but that's what we do, right? And as far as the program goes, I imagine the only way to get better is to practice, and you don't practice till you get it right, practice till you can't get it wrong. And if you don't got gym time, there's no time for practice. So that's really what I have to say. Just want to see Benton City I want to see them be like an awesome team. Like I want to see some powerhouses. I mean, the soccer program is doing great. However, we don't have any more like little league soccer here. We have to travel. So any parent that wants to play, you got to go to Tri-Cities. Volleyball, we just love volleyball. I mean, I was told to do the funds and gym time. Now we got to travel if we want. Like I wanted my daughter to play, but now we got to go to Tri-Cities. It's not going to work. Have my time. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you. Any other comment? Do we have any electronic? You can always email too. Okay, then we will move to new business. The highly capable plan for 22-23.
Yeah, so the board should receive the high cap plan as we're required to submit to OSPI. Mr. Hahn drew that up. There are no significant changes from last year to this year. I do foresee some changes in the future plan. Now that we have our map testing program going, we're going to try and expand our screening beyond either a volunteer or a teacher recommendation to just do a universal screening, but that's not that's not for this current school year. So I would ask the board to go ahead and approve our highly capable plan for the 22-23 school year.
When does the testing start for that?
It typically starts in January,
Yeah.
and then there are open windows all the way up through March.
The actual classes start, or when do they start doing it?
Then they would start participating, assuming that they're in. Given the schedule, if there's room for them to start this, then to just go into the class. Then we can start them then if they're full, because we're always basing class size on the previous year's students. They would roll in the following fall.
Any other comment, questions? Pretty much the same as last year.
Yeah, like I said, we'll anticipate some more significant change, I think, next year.
Okay. Okay, well, the chair would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll motion to approve the highly capable plan for 22-23 school year.
I'll second. Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimous. Aye. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the governor's emergency orders.
So we've been fortunate not to have anything COVID related for quite a few meetings, knock on wood. But it's just to remind the board, if you didn't see it in the newspaper or anything else, the governor's emergency orders will be lifted on October 31st, next Monday. And while that, heck, we've lived under them for what seems like a much longer time than 2.5 years, but there will be some procedural changes that the district will fall back to under the guise of being, I mean, there's simply past practices, normal practices. So the state mandated vaccine requirements for all employees, while we've complied with that and will up to midnight on 31st, any new employees hired after October 31st will not have to provide a submission of proof of vaccination or fill out a waiver that then goes to me. So all of the vaccination requirements will go away. And I think the one that most likely will impact the board is simply the fact that for the past 2.5 years, due to emergency order, we have been able to make alterations or even adopt policy without full review and without, quite frankly, even a vote of the board. Now, we've never gone so far as to adopt new policy without vote of the board, but that was one of the items that was specifically laid out in his emergency orders, and that will expire. So that means no more, quite frankly, just no more opportunities where if a policy needs to be changed, it could be changed by me, and then bring the board up to speed on what happened. I think it only occurred once or twice, and it was COVID related items. So suffice to say that will no longer be in effect. So there won't be anything but a normal process for either amending or adopting new board policy.
So we'll go back to the first, second, third readings, comments.
And for new policies, and I think the board is aware, we have followed that policy as standard practice. I know there are a few school districts in the state of Washington that for one reason or another, perhaps the inability to get quorum together in a timely fashion, things like that. There were some districts that put policy into place using that emergency order, but we haven't had the need to do that. It's not good practice, quite frankly. So we can officially say it's not even an option after Monday at midnight.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay, then we'll move on to policy 4260, use of school facilities.
Yeah, if the board remembers, I had suggested during our previous discussion on fees that that the policy contains language which requires me as superintendent to follow the policy to set rates that require full reimbursement for any of our expenses. And Heidi, please correct me if I'm wrong. What's that sentence highlighted? It is not in my. Okay. The. There we go. Sponsorship. Basically, we want to insert. It's down. Heidi, please correct me where the first notation is in the second paragraph, but there was another reference to. Oh, correct. Under school and child related, correct. So in the second paragraph, under school or child related groups or other government agencies. It says specifically is the costs, fees established by the superintendent will be charged to recoup those costs. And it is simply at the end of that sentence that I would propose the board add a statement such as to the highest degree able or
When possible.
whenever possible. I think is the simplest idea that we came up with so that doesn't tie my hands as far as setting fees which guarantee that we get full reimbursement, that when it's not possible, so then when it's deemed in the best interests of the school and the district, that we can subsidize or otherwise lower those charges to an acceptable rate. That, of course, would be something I would bring to the board, because the one thing I am looking to do with this is make sure that it is not simply the superintendent's whims that determine, quite frankly, whether or not we adjust rates. We want to have some hard data in front of us, but by adding whenever possible to this policy, then grants us the freedom to do some work towards that.
Yeah, because the way it is now, you don't have a choice.
The way it is written now, the board has asked me to fulfill the financial stipulation that we recoup our costs. This will simply say whenever possible. And therefore, being the old English teacher that I am, if it's then when it's not possible, that would grant us the authority to do so.
Any discussion?
And I think it's a good idea that way. Yeah, have the flexibility to.
Free us to set the rates according to what we desire instead of trying to balance.
Correct. And then, of course, with that in mind, that would lead directly and have some impact on our discussion then at our next meeting. Correct.
We don't want to be like Richmond and Kennewick and.
We tried so hard not to be like Richmond or Kennewick around here. I don't want to go down that road, quite frankly. So, and this is a simple amendment. Adding a couple words. There's not a second, third reading required. It can simply be approved by the board with vote this evening.
Any more questions, discussion?
So just as a non-English background, I'm in finance, so you think that wording is
I think
what
that
gives you the flexibility we need?
correct.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion. I move that we approve this as amended with the words whenever possible.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Thank you.
All right, well, let's see, the last but not least, policy 3207.
And policy, thank you, Mr. Byrne. I'm sorry, I got ahead of you there. Policy 3207, which is the prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. This is simply the most updated version of this policy. This was last approved, I believe, back in 2000. There it is, 2012. And it's simply to keep us current with model policy that's been created by WASDA and therefore vetted through their legal services there. So there is not a huge amount of change, just some wording. Don't ask me about the English teacher part in that one. But this, like I said, it is a mandatory policy, so I felt that it would be best to update this.
So this doesn't set any discipline, it just describes, it's mainly the description of bullying.
Correct, and then sets forth the requirement, of course, that we have a procedure that would tell us how we're going to do it, but even then will not mandate the imposition of specific discipline, because as we were having the discussion on various topics, there's no two incidences that are ever alike. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to simply say this shall happen. Leave it to the discretion of the administrators, but gives them a good roadmap to follow on how to make sure that the investigation is completed properly. And the procedures, of course, would have all the mandatory communication and timelines that go along with it.
Any questions, comments? We're looking for approval, correct?
Correct.
Well, the chair would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to, make a motion to approve policy 3207, prohibition, harassment, intimidations, and bullying.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Okay, then we'll move into board comments. Was I gonna bring up?
Well, I went to the dual language last week with Julie for the framework. I just want to say that it's pretty exciting. I think we want to start next year.
Yep.
Looks like it's gonna be a lot of work, but like it's gonna be worth it. So it's different than what when my kids went through it.
Yes.
But,
Very much so.
just from the data, it shows that the kids that are in that program really excel above the other kids that are not in it. So looking forward to that. And then the other thing I just want to say, I want to thank coaches. I know it's hard. I've been there. I know it's hard, and just want to say that we're working to make it fair and make it possible. So I just sometimes people get you hear things that that are going to take away from the kids. And I'm glad that you guys are fighting for it, and I just want you guys to know that we'll make sure it'll work out. So I know emotions get high. Just want to thank you guys for coming.
And so I did have a comment. So I went to a meeting with a parent that wasn't happy with the way she was treated. Mostly because she speaks Spanish and doesn't speak English very well. And so she took her issues to the correct place, you know, to the principal, to the office of the school where she was at, but nobody spoke Spanish. And it was difficult getting someone there to speak to her. And so I think we need to look into ensuring that every school of each office, which is only 3, I mean, has a Spanish speaking person available, whether they're working there, which would be preferable as secretary or assistant or some kind of person that spoke Spanish. I know with contracts, we can't mandate that, but it would be in our best interest to make sure that happens. If it needs to go into negotiations of a contract, or if it needs to go into some kind of, I don't know, some kind of appeal to the union, whatever it takes, we need to you know, go that direction. Ensure that somebody that comes in concerned for their kids, because moms always are, and usually there's a reason. And if they can't communicate their concern very well, and it doesn't get followed back up, you know, if it's not, they aren't told that they're being listened to, and, you know, there's not a complete circle, then it, you know, it upsets people even more. And usually those things can be stopped, the issue addressed, the student, you know, brought in and talked to the teacher or whoever the offending party is, you know, but you know, it's just a matter of our facts. A lot of our parents don't speak English, and we need to give them, what do we call it, free access to education, FAPE, isn't that what that just said? Free and appropriate.
Free and appropriate public
Public
education.
education. Anyway, just need to make that comment so we can think that direction.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. That was, I remember there was something.
Now with that, we do got our interpreter now.
Correct.
So, I mean, secretary shouldn't know if they have an issue, by the way, they can call and call her.
Correct. In fact, one of the, as you know, we lost our interpreter. We were probably without one for about 6 months. And now with Jenny Benitez, who the board approved at our last meeting, I will say things have been much better. Today, for instance, Jenny spent her entire day at the middle school. She'll be doing a set schedule in the future so that parents will know exactly where she's at and what time. So if they want to communicate with her, even if she's not in the middle school, they'll know she's at the high school, for instance. She's also very open to creating appointments that are before school or after school, whenever the parent needs. I think that's the most important thing with our translation system that we have now, is we're really trying to refocus it around what the parent needs and the times the parents need, not necessarily best for the adults in the school. It needs to be, we need to meet the parents where they're at. And Jenny's doing a fantastic job of that, quite frankly.
Well, you never know when a parent's upset. You need to communicate.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's. Teddy,
I'm good.
are you?
Yeah.
Oh, no comment this
Nope.
time? Good for you. Okay, well, we'll move to superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just a few items, just to let everybody know, one of the things that I put in my letter to the West County Times was to go out to the general public, and I'll make sure that the board is aware too. We previously mentioned our soccer team, of course, is finishing up their season tomorrow night, their last league match. That means obviously that the playoffs start on Saturday. And so the one thing that I put in my letter to the community in general, but wanted to make sure the board is aware, because that's a WIAA sanctioned event, playoffs starting on next Saturday. any home matches or quite frankly, away matches, WIA mandates that we charge admission. And we have not been charging admission to our general league games. But the WIA mandates that we do. So once we get into the playoffs, then we will start charging for those events, and we'll get the prices out well in advance. Mr. Smith was working on that today, to make sure that there's a district level and then a full state level charge that goes along with that. All of the money and proceeds go directly to the WIAA or the YVIA, which is Yakima Valley's regional finance center, and then they distribute funds back to the schools involved. They pay for all the game workers, things of that nature. So in case anybody wonders, we're not trying to make any profit or make any money off of a playoff. That's a WIA mandate. So Mr. Smith and Mr. Henry have already made plans to make sure that that's taken care of.
Do they set the price?
State does. So then with that, since we're on the topic of finances, I want to commend Drew and Mona. They've been working diligently, putting in well above their contracted 8 hours a day to get the year event financials done. And it really has put them in the position of they're having to go back really and look at some of the reasons why two previous finance directors prior to Drew made some of the decisions they made and why they did the things they did, because they're having to reconcile the entire year to submit to SBI. And I know that when I came into the office tonight before the board meeting, there was a lot of yelling going on because they found a substantial error that occurred, which caused them to be much closer to balancing than they were. So I'd like to just, as I've said, commend them for the hard work they're putting in, make sure our financials are rock solid when we submit to OSBI. Two more items first, and again, you're going to see flyers for it. You're going to see things in the West County Times if you read it. We've got parent information around Power School. And we're really trying to put out to parents that Power School is our new student information system. It has replaced Cumulative and Skyward, thankfully. And because you can download an app, you have virtually instant access to grades, attendance, announcements, things of that nature if you put the app on your phone. So we're trying to just recruit in both English and Spanish our parents to get them to download the app and see the things that they have available to them. And then finally, I forwarded the board an email today. It came from our high school counseling department. We had a senior day at CBC that occurred last Friday, and a bunch of our seniors got to go over there and explore a lot of the CTE STEM options that exist in Columbia Basin College. It was a neat experience, primarily, not just to see what CBC has to offer in a much more affordable manner than if they were going to go to a four-year school. But the fact of the matter remains that we were the first school to partner with CBC, and it was Coyote Bend City Seniors Day at CBC on Friday. And the board that governs the CTE programming in the area was very proud of the fact that we were the first ones to take that on and get our names out there. They're encouraging other school districts to do the same thing, to partner with them. I can tell you, we had a lot of kids with a lot of interest that quite frankly, as you all know, sometimes you just don't know what's out there until you go and see it. So, I figure if we got 3 or 4 kids, or even one, whose career plans or post-secondary plans changed as a result of going there, it was well worth the effort. So, great job by Marie Kelly and Elise P. up at the high school to make that happen.
Good.
And that's what I've got.
Okay. Sounds good. Any questions? All right, well. I guess that adjourns our meeting. We'll be going into an executive session for 30 minutes for personnel matters. And no business to follow, so thank you for coming
Thank you.
We'll see you guys.
and presenting. Informing